investigation conversation for Jessica. But this letter is like very different from that. So I'm curious to know from you, like what did you pull out as being very effective in the letter that was left for Jessica? Thanks, Lindsay.
We like that she pulled back on systems that Jessica had established earlier. So the consequences, the raise your hand to speak, all those consequences that she set up in the beginning that she wasn't implementing. So even though she was giving her technical assistance on something to improve on, she was still bringing you back to a positive thing. Like, you've set the framework for this, you know what the expectations are, and now I just need to follow through with them. So it kind of left that feedback in a very positive way.
Exactly, so very, very positive. The whole letter, I think, was pretty positive. But then it also was like tying into something they had already talked about, obviously, because how else did the CMA know about the consequence system? And then also made sure that this theory that the CMA walked away with was still maintain high expectations for behavior. You can't say that in a letter, like, work on that. You can't say that in a letter, it's not gonna work. So instead, like, she was very specific, like, do this, one thing. And so I'm, as a core member, I'm saying, actually, I know that I can go and reintroduce this, so I can go and do that. That's technical assistance, instead of just telling me something kind of big and unwieldy that I can't do. Someone give me something else that was very positive about this letter, like what made it an effective tool. Thank you, Monique.
I think even in her next step, she was very, I guess, logical in the sense of the pitfalls that someone could fall into. Like, she could have just said, reintroduce this raise your hand and speak policy. That's very specific, but she took it the next step to say, in order to do that, you're going to have X, Y, and Z in place, so that you were doing it appropriately.
Exactly. So again, she was being logical even in the letter. Like, we're not just putting logical in the conversation. She was being logical. She was being sincere. Like, here's some things that, you know, you could potentially do, and here's why I'm telling you to do it. Exactly. Thank you, Monique. Anyone else? Lynn.
All the next steps were relative towards one goal. So it was all dealing with classroom management. You wouldn't want to have 3 next steps. One's, oh, bring students to the door for investment. Oh, you could have put this in your lesson plan. And this. It's like it's all relative to like one ultimate goal.
Great, thanks. So very purposeful. The whole thing was purposeful. We're driving towards your maintain high expectations, E4. These next steps are all associated with that same thing that we're driving towards. Great. All right, so now we're going to actually move to our closing. This is not the end at all of the observation debrief cycle. Again, just so you know, like, in my head, I'm thinking lesson plan review is like one big, huge piece of the CMA role. The other big, huge piece of the CMA role is this, the observation debrief cycle. Because this is what we get our core members to do that's going to actually help them to improve. Having this conversation, leaving this feedback, this is what is going to help them to increase their students' achievement and help them develop their own skills. So we have a couple of things for you, and I want to just highlight these very quickly. You can take a couple of notes, but you're going to be getting this in email. First is, Lauren has developed a post work for you all to do. She's going to email it to all the CMAs and school directors tonight. This post work is just going to give you a little bit more practice in actually going through the analysis of the classroom process. So you're going to be looking at videos, you're going to be looking at lesson plans, and then going through that thought process that Chrissy walked us through earlier of saying, okay, if it's not planning, then is it technical understanding? Is it execution? Is it investment? And then it's time to come up with what your theory is. You have more practice on that. In addition, you're actually going to start having conversations at the next all staff conference. And so there you're going to actually be practicing being curious, being logical, leaving feedback notes, etc. And you'll actually have some assessments around that at the next conference. The last thing I want to say is Lauren is our CMA coordinator. You met her yesterday, and she did a fabulous job being a model CMA today for us and yesterday. She and I are really just here to help support and to train CMAs. I think in a lot of conversations I've had with y'all, said like CMAs are the linchpin of Institute. And really you are, because you probably have the most direct connection with core members. And so your ability to do well in your job is very much so connected to core members' ability to do well in their classroom. And so what we're going to be doing over the course of the spring is making sure that you have the skills and the tools to be ready to do that. So I'm saying that to say, when we get the post work, you're going to do it, you're going to submit it back to Lauren and myself. And what we're going to do is then look at that and say, okay, we see that our CMAs are still struggling with X, Y, or Z. Set up an additional learning opportunity so that you can be ramped up so you're not struggling when you get to Institute. All right? So I just wanted to kind of make sure that you understand like what the purpose of this is. All like, you know, let's make sure that we're already all of our core members. Because again, we don't want 5 CMAs doing well. We want all of you to be doing well, all 49 CMAs to be doing well, because that means that all 600 of our core members are leading our students to success. So with that, I want you to go back to handout number 1. That was the first handout that you all did with Chrissy, where you have to write a letter to a core member about the activation debrief cycle. Based on what you have learned now about the activation debrief cycle, about what you must do with CMA, about the purposes of it, etc., I want you to actually go back and I want you to update it. And I want you to add the 2 key steps that you'll be doing to make sure that it's executed well, and then the 1 or 2 things that you will see core members doing in each of those steps so that you know that you're executing effectively. So take about 2 minutes to do that. You're going to then pass that to your school director, and school directors, Lauren, is going to pick that up for you. And if you need to, you can run on the back, it's totally fine.